First meeting for Lansing marketing hackers. The reason honestly I started this group is I've gone to a lot of other communities, startup events for entrepreneurs, things like that, people who have small businesses, and I learned about all these tools out there that help really automate a lot of marketing and integrate a lot of different tools out there. There's a lot of great stuff when it comes to video, and how much you can do with video and video streaming and posting things to YouTube. There's a lot of great stuff with email marketing now, a lot of email marketing automation stuff that's MailChimp has just integrated with their free service, and drip marketing, things like that. There is a lot of integration with kind of AI when it comes to marketing automation. So that's kind of the guts of why I wanted to start this group, is not just talk about marketing, but talking about the different tools out there and how useful they can be and how they can automate a lot of the marketing process. So first of all, I want to get a little bit about myself. My name is Leo Dion. I've been running BrightDigit for 5.5 years now. And over that time, well, BrightDigit, we specialize in software development. So we do a lot of development in the Apple space, developing Apple products. And part of that is we recently started a meetup for Apple developers, Lansing Cocoa Heads, which had our first meetup in September at the Apple Store at Eastwood. And we're having our next one November 2nd. So that's another every other month meetup that I've started. And the other meetup is based on the work that I do with website development, creating websites and doing a lot of coding with websites. We started the Lansing JavaScript group in June of 2014. And that group has grown pretty steadily over the years. And we've gone from probably about 20 members to 200 members, and we get a good amount of people coming to those events, probably 30 people a month. So that kind of gives me some idea of what it takes to build a community, how to get that going, how to keep it alive, and how to keep it moving. So we're going to talk about 3 different areas: surveys, attendance, and staying connected. We'll get into how to get feedback from your audience before you've even started, so you know what are the best times to meet, what are topics that they're interested in, where's the best place to meet, things like that, and getting a little bit of info about your audience and what they might be looking for. We'll then get into the guts of setting up a meeting, and that is getting attendance and getting tickets and getting that stuff organized. And lastly, we'll talk about staying connected. So what does it take to stay connected with your audience so they know your meetup isn't just a once a month or every other month thing, but it's a living, breathing community that has a lot of tips and a lot of ways that can help you and is actually there for folks. So let's start by talking about surveys. The thing you want to do with surveys is you want to learn about your audience. You want to know your audience. Every community is going to have something that's centered around, but what perspective or what angle do you want to go with that? So we're going to talk about a few tools when it comes to surveys. One of the ones I've seen a lot of people use lately is Google Forms. Google Forms is really nice. It gets you a lot for free. And if you're already somebody that's connected with the Google space, already a user of like Google Office stuff, Google Docs, Google Sheets especially, Google Forms is a really good fit because it's already integrated with that. The issue I have with Google Forms is probably the issue I have with most of the Google stuff. It's not really the focus of their business, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny segment of a tiny, tiny, tiny segment if you know anything about Google and Alphabet. So at any moment they could decide not to maintain it or to drop it or do whatever. So just keep that in mind with Google Forms. It gets you a lot for free. If you're already a Google user, it's definitely something worth taking a look at. The elephant in the room is really SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey gives you a lot for free, and it's really their bread and butter. It's what they do. It's what they specialize in. They're not going to be going away anytime soon. The issue is SurveyMonkey really isn't as dynamic and it hasn't really evolved much. But as far as like if you are a survey person and really are into that, it's a really great tool. If you really want to get into the guts and really customize, you kind of have to pay for it, and that ranges anywhere between $35 to $100 a month, depending on how much you want. So SurveyMonkey is definitely the big one out there, and if you're not a Google person, you might want to take a look at that. What I ended up going with is a fairly new one called Typeform. It's pretty hot right now, but I really liked it. I don't know how many of you here have taken the survey, but Typeform gives you a lot. It gives you a really nice dynamic display, a really great design, and it gives you a lot for free. It's a service I'm really strongly considering paying some money for because I like it so much. You can do a lot with it. You can get analytics. You can export the data pretty easily into a spreadsheet. But the design and the dynamic stuff that you can do with it, the logic that you can present is really what makes Typeform, to me, a really interesting product and something I want to go with in the future. So in conclusion, if you're a Google person, and I would recommend Google Forms. If you're somebody who wants a little bit more pizzazz, more design, more dynamic, a little bit of logic, then you're going to want to take a look at Typeform. And then when it comes to like the one that's been on the playground the longest, I guess, so to speak, is SurveyMonkey. So that's kind of my thoughts when it comes to survey software that's out there. So you've got enough feedback. You're ready to like plan your event. Where are you going to plan it? How are you going to organize your event? So let's talk about that a little bit. A lot of people go with Facebook, and there's nothing wrong with that. Facebook offers a lot of great features, and it's well integrated with the whole Facebook suite. When you do that, you have a couple options. You can go with a Facebook page or a Facebook group. I ended up going with a page with this one. But what's nice about a page is if you're selling a product or you're based around something that you're selling or something you want people to do, a page is probably more of a best fit. And you could also boost a lot of that stuff with ads. So you can put some money in and boost whatever action you're doing through a Facebook page. You can comment and like as a page, and you can also add services and apps that Facebook offers through a Facebook page. A Facebook group is a little bit different. It can be set to private, so you can only approve certain people if you want to. It's centered around a community. Anybody can post to it. So it really depends on what you're doing. Honestly, over the years, it's probably going to merge more and more. So just keep that in mind. What is it that you're doing? Are you more product centered? You might want to look at a page. Are you more community based? You might want to look at a group. The problem with Facebook, of course, is as much as Mark Zuckerberg wants everybody on this planet dead or not even born yet to be on Facebook, not everybody is on Facebook. So that's the limiting factor about being exclusively on Facebook when it comes to your events. So keep that in mind. What we ended up doing is we have Facebook, but then we have a URL to another site for our ticket. So you can do that. So you can go both ways when it comes to Facebook and another service. Let's talk a little bit about Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is definitely one of the leaders out there when it comes to organizing your event. It is great if you're not tied to a specific community and you're more centered around a specific event. If you're more business oriented, there's more business oriented stuff on Eventbrite. And also if you're selling tickets, Eventbrite probably is a little bit more mature in that area. We end up going with Meetup. The reason being, our events are free and we're more community based. We're doing these every other month. Second Wednesday of every other month. So this is going to be a cyclical thing. It's going to constantly happen. We want to be able to do discussions. We want to be able to share info through the Meetup as well. So if you're more in the area of business and you are doing a single event that's not really tied to a community, you might want to look at Eventbrite. If you're more of a community and you're really free, though you can do tickets on Meetup, I would probably recommend Meetup for free community-based events. So let's talk about staying connected and staying connected with your audience and connecting with them and giving them content that they'll constantly come back to. So there's a couple ways of doing this. You have social media and you have email marketing. First, we're going to talk social media. So let's say you have a Facebook, a Twitter, and a LinkedIn account. How do you share some articles that you've read concerning a specific topic within that community? Well, one great service that I use is Buffer. Buffer has a really great API, so you can do some stuff like use services like bulk buffer to post or queue actually a whole series of articles over a month. You can do that all through Buffer. You can also post, set up newsletters, or you can schedule out a whole bunch of articles for over a month. And this is really great because then I can just do that at once and I don't have to worry about it. I can come back to it. If I want to and I see something later, I can always queue it to the top of the, post it to the top of the queue on Buffer as well. So let's say you want to do email newsletters. If you're doing email newsletters, the big one is MailChimp. So MailChimp has the ability to do a lot of automation. You can set up your email lists, all sorts of stuff like that through MailChimp. MailChimp now had an automation for their free tier. The problem with doing any email newsletter is now you're starting to get into the area of like actually writing these emails and getting them out. And I mean, the percentage of people that open and click emails is pretty low. So keep that in mind. It might be a good investment that gets you a lot, but it also may be a bit time consuming for you. So we talked a little bit about how to manage your social media accounts for your community, how to do email newsletters. Last thing I want to talk about, a brief word on automation. So there's a lot of these services have APIs or programming interfaces that you can hook up to and integrate these services together. So I can export my survey results and use the emails to subscribe people to the newsletter. I can do multiple posts using Buffer, using their programming API. Eventbrite has a lot of great stuff when it comes to handling, dealing with tickets and refunds and things like that. And then MailChimp now allows you to set up campaigns and templates all through their interface. So there's a lot of opportunities here for automation when it comes to these services. So just to give you some idea, Meetup, the one issue with Meetup is you'll have a lot of people who will join your Meetup, but not a lot of people who will be involved. So you have to keep that in mind. We have 57 members on our Meetup. We have 17 RSVPs for today. We have 19 people who took the survey, and we have 28 likes on Facebook. And some of these overlap, and some of them don't, but it gives you some idea of like what kind of involvement you'll get and how often you're going to need to share stuff and let people know and publicize stuff like this. In conclusion, you want to stay connected with your audience through surveys and personal connections as well, and take advantage of the different survey tools that are out there. Remember to update your audience on upcoming events and any news within your community. So if I see a really great article on content marketing or on email newsletters, things like that, you're going to see that on the Facebook page. And then always, I was going to say, keep them updated on news and events and things like that, and make sure that you continually remind people about what events are coming up and how to RSVP and keep that going. I think the important thing is to stay connected with your audience and provide something to them. If you're not providing them anything, it's really kind of going to be a waste of time for them and they're not going to stay involved. So make sure you're providing content and you're giving them regular updates on events and what's going on. That's the formal end of my presentation. Thank you again. We do have a Slack group for Lansing codes, and we're going to have a channel set up for you guys on there. Do we know what name yet?
We'll have a name.
No, we'll have a name, but go to slack.lansing.codes, put your email address in there, and you will get an invite to our Slack group. Are you familiar with Slack?
No.
Oh, fantastic, good. So I didn't get a slide done for Slack for this presentation, but Slack is a really fantastic tool for getting communities together to chat on any topic in particular. So there's Slack channels for marketing, there's Slack groups for sales, Slack groups for entrepreneurial stuff, Slack groups for I don't know. Coder. Well, obviously coders. Yeah. So
Slack.com will get me to the main page.
You want to go to slack.lansing.codes. You put your email address in there, and you'll get an invite to join our Slack group. From there, we'll have a channel set up for Lansing Marketing Hackers. So
it'll be obviously named.
Be on the lookout for that.
It'll be obviously.
What's that?
It'll be obvious.
We'll announce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we welcome everyone when they join. So we'll help you find your way.
Cool. So
Yeah.
So when Slack has been around for a while? Slack has been around for a while. I just have not heard.
2014.
Oh, okay.
It's bigger in the tech. It's bigger in the tech.
Yeah, a lot of tech companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Cross-platforms, like cross-platforms, like if you're on your desktop, you're getting on it, and you could get notifications to your phone, and then join the chat and respond back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the aim's dead. Slack's the big thing. So yeah, I'll definitely take a look or be on the lookout for anybody that joins. So looking forward to seeing people join on there. And then we have our event already planned for our next one in 2 months. December 13th, we'll be at the Lansing Chamber of Commerce. Joe Ford from NetVantage Marketing will be talking about the changing face of the Google search engine results page. Thank you, Chad, for helping me set that up. But that's going to be an awesome event. So please, when you get a chance, RSVP for that. And we will see you in 2 months for that. Thank you. And now I will take questions and answers. Well, I'll take questions. I'll do the answer part.
So Buffer I've never used. Buffer I've never used. I typically use HootSuite.
Yes.
So what have you found that Buffer has that's better than HootSuite or different? Okay.
Yeah. Buffer is much more simple and streamlined to managing social media feeds. I feel like a HootSuite, I had used that previously. It's a bit bloated and it has a lot more than what you might need for managing your social media accounts.
Okay, so just a little bit simpler to find your way around.
Yep, that's it. That's where I would say about Buffer. If you're happy with HootSuite, I'm not going to try to convince you that Buffer is necessarily better, but it's what I've switched to precisely because of its simplicity and its open API.
For consuming as well, right? Like you can read all your feeds in HootSuite and organize them in different ways, and Buffer is primarily for posting, although you can also see analytics for your posting.
They do have a feature to subscribe to RSS feeds and then use that to feed into whatever social media account. But yeah, it's a lot more simple. And it might be cheaper.
So I think it is cheaper.
Yeah.
If you have over, I think, 5 social media accounts, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to pay a premium. I think it's only $5.99.
For HootSuite.
For who?
30 for HootSuite.
Okay.
30 you have 30 posts you can do.
Oh, 30 total for the month?
30 total. 30 posts.
Okay. So I have the 100 a year account with Buffer, and I get 12 accounts with that, and up to 200 per account. So I really maxed out. I was hacking something and I really maxed out my social media accounts, and I found out, oh, 200, that's the max with your account. Because I was like, why isn't this working? It was like, oh, you got everything up to November, no wonder. Okay. Yeah, so it's 200 per account and 12 accounts, I believe.
When you say accounts, that's a separate social media property. Separate social media property, like this person. A LinkedIn for this person.
LinkedIn for that, LinkedIn for my company, Facebook for me, Facebook for Lansing Marketing Hackers. Yeah, exactly. And that's 100 a year for what I have. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Interesting. I've never heard. Cool. Interesting. I've never heard about it.
Any other questions?
Do you use a CRM at all for any groups? Or how do you track
No.
different people across platforms?
How do I keep track of people?
Is important to manage individuals across different platforms.
I'm trying to use MailChimp for my centralization for that, but that's really difficult. The problem with getting people to like your stuff is that it doesn't give you a lot. It doesn't give you their email address, so then you end up with another channel you have to communicate with people through. So yeah, it's kind of difficult because it's kind of distributed. So if I want to do email or Meetup or Facebook, people might be in different spots. So if I do manage it, it ends up being a spreadsheet at most.
Well, there's a lot of great tools out there. There's a lot of great tools out there. I can't remember what they're called, but I can put them in the Slack later when I remember what we used one for Lansing Code Lab for a while that integrated actually. It would search if you have an email address, it'll pull in social profiles and show you people.
Okay.
I would like.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look it up and post it in Slack. I just can't remember what it's called.
That's really useful. Yep.
Maybe we'll have you speak about it.
Volunteered.
One other, I guess, that with automation, Zapier.
Yeah, so there's Zapier. There's used to be IFTTT, which I think is much more for personal. It's more for personal and like home automation stuff. But Zapier is definitely more of the professional business-oriented tool out there for non-programmers to integrate different tools together. So. Example would be, I want Zapier when somebody submits an email to Typeform to go to my MailChimp, or I want Zapier will hook up. I use a time tracker, and I want every time I track my time to store it in my Google Calendar, Zapier can hook that stuff up for me. So integrating multiple.
There's different pricing plans.
There's a fee for, yeah, I think it's up to 3 things you integrate, and then after that you pay for it.
Really good blog too. Really good productivity blog. Great productivity blog.
Yeah.
Kitty, was it in Sightly?
Yes. Yeah, that was the one that we used.
Is Insightly integrated with Gmail?
So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think a lot of these are Chrome extensions they end up being, so yeah. What other questions are there?
So you said back in the buffer thing. So buffer, you can have an RSS feed, and
you can read the article and then you can queue it to one of your social media accounts.
you can schedule it like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
How do you track success rate for when things become real? I guess is the only way I can phrase it. So you liked something I posted, then I emailed you and you responded to that, or maybe signed up for a newsletter, and then I meet with you and it turns into business, and that's great. Do you have something to go backwards to figure out how that happened, and to kind of map that and try to extrapolate on what the successful tools are doing so you can do those more, and what the unsuccessful tools are doing so that you can do those less?
I see what you're saying. So how can you figure out, like, analyze the source of your
ROI. It comes back to a little bit of the CRM stuff.
Yeah, there's that. You can start getting into analytics. So there's some analytics tools with Buffer, for instance, and Facebook. Actually, Facebook pages has some pretty advanced analytics to see what people do when they go to your page.
Well, but it's some of that's outside of clicking in buttons.
Right.
It's more like what it turns into, which is outside of.
You're saying it's anonymous? That's the problem?
No, I'm saying that. So again, you clicked on this, you clicked on that. Blah, blah, blah. At some point, we meet, and I sell you something, or you sell me something, and then that's great. But after, like, going backwards to figure out how that, like, what led up to that or how that happened, that's not analytics. That we can.
So I mean, that's where you start getting into, like, I don't want to say like coupon codes, but some way so that. I mean, you could personally ask the person, right? That's
well, you can, but again, it's more. It's not just the tracking for tracking's sake on the digital.
No, but you're tracking so you know that's what brought them there. So now you know to repeat that process, right?
Yeah, or I mean, in many cases, it's more than one thing. So it's just trying to figure out what were some of those things, and they could not tell you at all. So that you don't want to tell me how you got to me,
right?
But there'd be ways for me to go back to figure out, well, how did this? Kind of what was, if I could use analytics at that point to figure out, well, I know that 2 months ago he clicked like on this, and a month ago he attended this event.
Yeah, I mean, you're really getting into like analytics and being able to like put codes on things so that when people go to stuff, it's like you know what they clicked on from where they clicked on it.
Right.
I mean, that's what it gets into with that. Right. A social CRM. There's probably tools out there.
What I see a lot of places doing is creating campaigns with whatever analytics platform you're using, like Google Analytics. You can create a campaign, and it gives you some text to add to every URL, and that text is catered towards the different mediums that you're using to publish that content, so that your analytics can give you a nice presentation.
Right, so you can see the source
where people actually took action.
Yeah, that would be like using those UTM codes for each different marketing medium.
There you go.
We'll identify where it comes from, but then like what if you had like you were saying here, maybe that's not. If you could have, okay, this is the email address, and this is the name of the person,
and this is the name of the person,
if you
and just
all of the interactions they took
throughout the whole marketing cycle of whatever you
if
use,
it somehow could apply that attribution to that specific medium, and then at the end you could
take a look at it. It's like, okay, this guy became a customer. I'm gonna put that in my CRM.
And then I'm gonna look back at all the
and then I'm gonna look back at all the interactions he took through all the marketing messages, whether it's email or Facebook.
The other important part of that is to identify people that are in the middle of that cycle, right? So it's not just
there's a shoebox over there if you can grab that as well. Thank you.
Also to identify the group that's in the middle, which is closer to making a decision, whether it's to say yes or no. They're closer, so you can focus marketing directly towards them, and that conversation is different. The tone of it is different.
Yeah, for sure.
For CRM or sales tool, I know that Pipedrive is something I've been looking at and researching more, and then Act is a really simple, very inexpensive kind of CRM sales process software that you can use to kind of just customize everything.
What was the first one you said?
Pipedrive.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Pipedrive.
I've been researching. I haven't downloaded to do the free trial yet, but I've been more trying to figure out what industries are kind of liking it and trying to get more. I always look for the extremes. Which of course are on the web, like figure out what.
Yeah, you always Google the product.
Yeah, you always Google the
Find what people say about that.
Did you put your business card in?
No, that's pretty much it. I think that's really important to identify. It's really important to identify where they are in that funnel and where, and just to keep learning from people as you go through the